During the dry season, over 500,000 terns crowd onto this remote atoll in the Indian Ocean. Their chicks are still in their dark juvenile plumage. They vary in age. Whilst the more advanced chicks take to the air, others aren't quite ready yet. Those just starting to learn to fly use the shallow lagoon that occupies the center of the atoll as their training ground. It's difficult for some of them to stay aloft for long. Usually, they are solitary hunters, but about 50 of them have come here from neighboring reefs, attracted by this abundance of potential prey. The fledglings stay out of the water if they can. They even drink on the wing. If the trevally are to catch one now, they have to up their game. So there is a fish here that, amazingly, has a brain capable of calculating the airspeed, altitude, and trajectory of a bird. The time comes when every fledgling has to take to the air and collect food for itself. Their parents lead them to the training grounds. If they are to survive, they must learn quickly. After a month of practicing over the lagoon, the youngsters start to leave and take their chances out over the open sea. This is a poison dart frog. Males raise their young in a very special way. A father will place each one of his tadpoles in its own tiny pool of water. This is one. Nice and safe. He might have up to 5 other tadpoles, but he needs to remember where he put each one of them. This one isn't doing so well. Its tiny puddle has all but dried out. The tadpole will die unless its father can find a better place for it. If dads are good for one thing, it's piggyback rides. Fathers are no bigger than a human thumbnail, but this enables them to get to places that others can't. This could be perfect. The only problem is that there's no food here. Fathers need help. Somewhere in this forest is Mum. A female can do something a male cannot. But first, Dad must lead his partner to their hungry tadpole. And Mother deals with the problem. She lays a single, unfertilized egg. And her tadpole gets a much-needed meal. For the next 6 weeks, parents continue their rounds, an extraordinary test of teamwork and memory. The Kalahari Desert. Here, food is more plentiful, but it's hidden. A pangolin. She can collect food that others can't reach. A keen sense of smell enables her to detect the presence of ants and termites in their nests beneath the sand. Her sticky tongue, some 30 centimeters long, enables her to collect them from deep underground. And she's being carefully watched. The drier it gets, the deeper the termites live. Many are way beyond the reach of even a pangolin. But not of an aardvark. It's the world's largest burrowing animal. Its sense of smell is extremely acute. Shovel-like claws and powerful legs enable it to dig down to depths of 5 or 6 meters. A full-grown aardvark needs to eat about 50,000 termites every day. Termites are highly nutritious and full of moisture, and they can be collected here year-round. Aardvark are usually nocturnal. But the fact that this one is foraging in daylight is a sign that food is scarce. Recent droughts in the Kalahari have led to low termite numbers, and as a consequence, aardvarks here are close to starvation. Changes in the world's climate are affecting many of Africa's animals. It's predicted that in the next century, southern Africa will warm twice as much as the global average. The future will be bleak for those that cannot adapt fast enough. A Sally Lightfoot crab. One of thousands of shore crabs just waiting for their moment. Every day they gather on the tropical shores of Brazil, waiting for the tide to go out. Which exposes their feeding grounds. Seaweed-covered rocks 100 meters from the shore. Getting there is a race against the tide. They leap from rock to rock. These crabs seem to be afraid of the water. And for good reason. The moray eel. The chain moray is a specialist crab hunter. Its blunt teeth can easily grip and crush a crab's shell. It's the crab's deadliest enemy. But the crab's feeding grounds are still a long way off. They must press on. Halfway. But their enemy has other ideas. Crossing the land. To reset the ambush. To feed, the crabs must keep going. But nowhere is safe. An octopus, also a crab killer. The crabs make a dash for it. Made it. Risking life and limb to graze on these seaweed pastures. But in 2 hours' time, when the tide starts to turn, they will have to run the gauntlet all over again. Alarm calls warn of an intruder. This time, it's an adult male tiger. He's a third bigger than Rajbearer and much more powerful. This is the cub's favourite waterhole. Mother and sons sleep off their meal. But Bieber heads off alone. Adult male tigers sometimes kill cubs, so to approach one is a huge risk. Unless, of course, he's your father. The only male in the forest. who would never harm her. Tiger fathers rarely meet their offspring, and he doesn't seem keen to get acquainted. But while he is patrolling the forest, other males will keep away, and the cubs will be safe. For everything else, the cubs depend on Rajbearer. She still has to provide for the whole family. They're bullied constantly. And forced to live on the fringes of the troop. As outcasts, their only comfort is each other. He's been snatched, stolen by a higher-ranking female. She is childless, and she wants a baby of her own. He's only a few meters away, but if his mother approaches, the rest of the troop could well attack her. The kidnapper has never raised a baby before, so this one is in danger. They're headed towards a cable car tower. The young mother can't let them out of her sight. They're 30 meters up. If she tries to grab her baby and fails, he could fall to his death. The kidnapper refuses to surrender him. There's one last thing a mother can try, and to do it, she needs to recruit another macaque. Now the mother begins to groom her companions in full view of the kidnapper. All monkeys love to be groomed, even by a low-ranking female. It's the basis for peace in macaque society. eventually the urge to join in is just too strong. The kidnap is over, and the youngster can climb back into his mother's arms. But leopards are the most versatile of all the big cats, adept at finding cover in the most unpromising places. The steep walls of the gully are now her cover for an ambush. The male puku is close enough, but he's too big to tackle. She needs to slip past him without being seen. If he spots her, he'll blow her cover. Slowly does it. To succeed here, she needs to find prey grazing close to the edge, or better still, in the gully itself. Frustration. Success would have staved off hunger for a week. But while there's prey around, there's hope. Peeking over the top is a risk, but it's the quickest way to find a new target. A burst of speed of 65 kilometers an hour, and it's all over in less than 6 seconds. Except it isn't. Dazed and disorientated, the impala makes a miraculous escape. For the last few weeks, the mother and father have taken it in turn to feed their offspring. But its growing appetite will soon force both parents to go away fishing at the same time. Now it's time to encourage the month-old chicks to stand on their own 2 feet. Sometimes it takes a well-timed kick. Now both parents can head off to sea to go fishing. For the first time, the chicks will have to face the elements without a parent to protect them. Other adults certainly won't look after them. So lone chicks gather together for comfort. As the temperature drops to -25, the chicks instinctively create their own mini-huddle, just as their fathers do. This is no time for a youngster to be alone. If they're lucky, some chicks may still have the protection of a parent taking a break from fishing. But for the majority, the huddle is their only shelter. Northern Australia has the highest tides in the tropics, which expose vast areas of shoreline. And here lives a truly extraordinary species of octopus. Octopuses are marine animals. They live and breathe underwater. At low tide, most octopuses would be imprisoned in their rocky pools. But this is no ordinary octopus. It's the only one specially adapted to walk on land. It pulls itself along using the hundreds of tiny suckers that line its arms. Hunting for crabs, it walks from pool to pool. Apart from a rather startled fish. This one is empty. So the octopus moves on. A rock pool may seem like a safe refuge. But the octopus's suckers enable it to move just as stealthily in water as out of it. Nowhere is safe when this octopus is around. As they mature, young males begin to explore the boundaries of the pride's territory. Red has ventured out alone. And blundered straight into the middle of the hyena clan. He's trapped by over 20 of them. The pack tries to wear him down. This number of hyenas could kill him. It's impossible to fight them all at once. He can't keep them at bay for much longer. He's tiring fast. His ally, Tartu, has heard the commotion. Now the odds have changed. Even for 20 hyenas, a pair of male lions is too much to take on. Red is lucky. The blue shark. travels over 8,000 kilometers a year, riding on the currents supported by its broad wing-shaped fins. This one may not have eaten for 2 months. But the currents can carry promising traces of fatty oils from many kilometers away and will lead it to its next meal. After days of travel, the smell of food gets stronger. A dead whale, recently struck by a ship. This could be a real feast, but the blue shark must be cautious. Great white sharks, 10 times heavier than a blue, are highly possessive around a whale carcass. Great whites are eager to feed on energy-rich whale blubber, which we now know forms a major part of their diet. Once the great white has had its fill, smaller sharks, like the blue shark, tackle what's left of a carcass. As the oils from this dead whale spread more widely, more and more blue sharks appear. Within days, the carcass will be stripped of its blubber. Then, no longer kept buoyant by its oil, it will sink into the depths below. The blue, with its reserves of fat replenished, can now survive for another 2 months without eating. Over half of all animals in the open ocean drift in currents. Jellyfish cross entire oceans, feeding on whatever happens to tangle with their tentacles. Some can grow to 1 meter, even 2 meters across. And when, by lucky chance, they encounter a patch of sea rich in plankton, their numbers explode. With such a successful strategy, the jellies are one of the most common life forms on the planet. But among the jellies, and looking somewhat like them, is a rather more complex and sinister creature. The Portuguese man-o'-war. It floats with the help of a gas-filled bladder, topped by a vertical membrane. With that serving as a sail, it maintains a steady course through the waves. Long threads trail behind it, some as much as 30 meters long. Each is armed with many thousands of stinging cells. A single tentacle could kill a fish, or, in rare cases, a human. But among its lethal tentacles lurks a man-o'-war fish that feeds by nibbling them. Whilst this fish has some resistance to the stings, it must still be extremely careful. Most other fish are not so lucky. Tentacle has caught this one and reels it in. It's already paralyzed. Specialized muscular tentacles transfer the victim to others that digest the catch, liquefying it with powerful chemicals. Eventually, all that is left is a scaly husk. This voracious man-o'-war may collect over 100 small fish in a day. Their cover blown, escape seems impossible. But these particular fish have a unique ability. They're flying fish. With an extra thrust from their tails, the flying fish get airborne once more. With a good wind, they can glide for hundreds of meters. But this is just what the frigate birds have been waiting for. When frigates join the hunt, the flying fish are literally caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. If the flying fish get too much lift, they become easy prey for the frigates. If they dive to evade attack from above, they could fall into the mouths of the Dorado. Losing its fear of humans has enabled one animal to spread into cities everywhere and in huge numbers. Pigeons are by far the most successful urban bird. Here in Albi in the south of France, the pigeons come to the river to bathe. They need to preen their flight feathers, clean off the city dust, and cool themselves down. But death lies in wait. A predator that has taken advantage of the very thing that has led to the pigeon's success. Their lack of fear. As the pigeons bathe, oil from their plumage flows downstream and is detected. Monstrous Wells catfish. Introduced here just 40 years ago, they have proliferated, virtually exterminated the local fish stocks, and they've now developed a taste for pigeon. Their eyesight is poor, so they use their barbels to sense the movements of their victims. This is a radical new hunting strategy for what is normally a bottom-dwelling fish. After 1,000 years of living in this city, pigeons are now having to learn to avoid a fish. She is an experienced hunter, but her prey are always on high alert. Fortunately, she knows how to disappear. Even with her experience, most hunts end this way. But now she faces a dilemma. As evening draws in, leaving the cubs unprotected in their den could put them in danger. The night shift are already on the prowl. A sloth bear. It will kill cubs if it can find them. Once a den has been discovered, it's no longer safe. She needs to move her family. A little red flying fox. Their ancestors flew here, travelling along the chain of volcanic islands that links Asia to Australia. But their huge wings, which stretch from their fingers to their toes, make it difficult for them to walk or take off from the ground. So when they want to rest, They hang upside down in trees. But the bats have to drink every day. And they do so on the wing. They swoop just low enough to wet their bellies, and then, back in their roosts, they will suck out the water. Each evening, 10,000 of them come here. Not all of them return. Every 2 meters of river there is a crocodile. They were here long before the bats. Survivors from Australia's prehistoric past. These dramas have been taking place for millions of years. Aerial agility versus patience and deadly speed. Australia's forests are hostile places in which to make your home. The Great American Deserts cover over 2.5 million square kilometers. Here, roasted by the sun and blasted by the wind, the rocks disintegrate and mountains, particle by particle, are reduced to sand. These pillars are all that remain of a plateau where dinosaurs once roamed. Few animals can now survive here. In summer, as in all deserts, the enemy is heat, and it returns every day. At 7 in the morning, the temperature is already 25 degrees Celsius. The clock is ticking for one unusual descendant of the dinosaurs. A road runner, found only in the deserts of North America, built for a life on the ground. He can run at over 30 kilometers an hour. But the prey he seeks are one step ahead. The Roadrunner's challenge is picking the right target. A Gila monster. Too big. By mid-morning, it will be 40 degrees Celsius. Even the smallest lizards will soon head for cover. A centipede. Slim pickings for the morning's work. Hunting should get easier and prey will stay out longer once the summer's peak begins to fade. A mother black bear is looking for something suitable for her cubs. This is their first ever trip to the seaside. In a few hours, the tide will return. So they must keep up with Mum. Here's something tasty. Crabs. Big crabs can give a nasty nip, so it's best to start off with smaller ones. During spring, 3/4 of the bear's food comes from the beach. But now, this family is not alone. An adult male. He is double her size, and they're in his territory. The cubs know that call. It's time to head for safety. Bears have poor eyesight, but their sense of smell is acute, and the male has detected intruders. He knows exactly which tree they are in. If the cubs stay up there, they'll be safe, but they're losing precious feeding time. For now, he's content to leave his scent mark. A warning note for trespassers. The family moves on. For the cubs, lunch today will have to be a takeaway. The tide comes in, and within minutes, feeding time is over for another day. Danger past, and that's just as well, because he is a father. And he's guarding some very precious eggs. For the last few weeks, females, one after the other, have visited him and entrusted him with their offspring. Some are now almost ready to hatch. There are several clutches on the leaf, and those at the top, the most recently laid, are barely a day old. But in the jungle, there's always someone out to get you. This wasp is a specialist hunter of frogs' eggs. It's noticed the wriggling tadpoles at the bottom of the leaf. He mustn't move. The youngest eggs are the most vulnerable, and he can't guard them all. But these tadpoles are not as helpless as they might appear. Incredibly, the unhatched tadpoles can sense danger, and the oldest and strongest wriggle free and drop into the stream below. The eggs at the top of the leaf, however, are still too young to hatch. And now the wasps know they're there. But the male's back looks very like the youngest cluster of eggs. And that seems to confuse the wasps. Using his own body as a decoy is a huge risk. The wasp's stings could kill him. He's managed to save most of his young. He'll have to remain on guard for another 2 weeks. But in the jungle, just surviving the day can count as a success. The lions are surrounded by wildebeest on their annual migration. A quarter-ton bull would make a good meal for all 10 of the pride. But even though Charm is an experienced hunter, most attempts end in failure. Uses her hind legs to knock the wildebeest off balance. The smallest cubs won't be able to catch food for themselves for another 12 months. Their ever-growing appetites mean that Charm and Sienna have to hunt around the clock. The females are often forced to head out alone. Tonight, it's Sienna's turn. Sunrise. Sienna is seriously injured. She's too weak to move. A lone lion is always at risk of attack by buffalo, hyenas, even other lion prides. It's evening, and Sienna hasn't returned to her family. Now, everything depends on Charm. Somewhere along this seemingly barren stretch of sand, there is food in great quantity. Fur seals. There are around 10,000 of them here. Adult seals are large and strong. but their pups are neither. The youngsters are closely guarded by their mothers. The hyena, however, knows to be patient. Sooner or later, seal mothers must return to the ocean to cool off. A single seal pup could feed a hyena and her family for days. But finding food is only half the battle. It now has to be carried back. A jackal is here too. And it's not alone. If a hyena loses her kill, she'll have nothing with which to feed her cubs. The jackals won't follow her very far from the coast. It's too hot for them in the desert interior. Only by making these long journeys can brown hyenas manage to survive in the middle of the Namib. The return of the sun coincides with the appearance of the newest members of the colony. In a matter of days, there are thousands of hungry mouths, all demanding food. Their fathers haven't eaten anything for nearly 4 months. Yet they have kept back a vital reserve, a kind of thick penguin milk, just for this moment. But it's only enough to keep the chick alive for a few days. The females must return soon with food. For some, it's already too late. First of the females are returning. Fat and well-fed, more arrive, all with food for the chicks. and not a moment too soon for the waiting fathers. A mother's first sight of her young chick. With their bond reaffirmed, the whole family celebrates. Off the south coast lies by far the biggest of them, Tasmania. And that has its own special marsupial. One that seldom appears until after dark. The Tasmanian devil. Many predators inhabit a territory packed with prey, but here there's nothing like that for them. Each may travel for miles, night after night, prepared to eat anything it can find, dead or alive. The shoreline is a good place to search. There might be some small creatures to catch here, or maybe something that the tide has brought in. The carcass of a wallaby has been washed ashore. Tasmanian devils can eat 40% of their body weight in one session, and they have hugely powerful jaws. They tackle everything, even bones. Back at the den, there are other hungry mouths. Her two youngsters are 6 months old. They still rely on their mother's milk, but they're feeling peckish. There must be something solid they could find for themselves while they're waiting for a drink. Is this food? That possum smells tasty, but it's a little high up. This looks more promising. At last, a giant stick. Not bad for a first go. Their mother will protect and feed these youngsters for another 3 months. Their survival is important to her, but also for us. Because these are one of the last devil families in the world. Tasmanian devils are now endangered. Found in only a few places, such as this remote islet off the coast of Tasmania.
Sea snakes. At one time, these snakes' ancestors lived on dry land. They must still visit the surface to breathe. But they are beautifully adapted to life at sea, hunting for fish around the island reefs. They have some of the most toxic venom of any animal, so they don't have many predators. But as they forage off the coast of one small island, their greatest nemesis is approaching. Yoko and Setsuko are hunters, and they have a fearsome reputation. These two 70-year-olds are on a shopping trip like no other. Yoko and Setsuko live on the tiny island of Kudaka. It's only 4 kilometers across, and with limited space on land, the locals look to the sea to provide. As the sun sets, the lady's prey is approaching. On certain summer nights, venomous sea snakes move towards the island and gather in coastal caves, looking for shelter and fresh water to drink. But coming ashore on this island is extremely risky. It takes some nerve to wade in with no protective clothing. Sea snake venom can be 10 times more powerful than a rattlesnake's. Yoko has been hunting snakes for 40 years. It's a skill that's been passed down the generations here for at least 5 centuries. The snakes will be dried in this smokehouse using a secret process known only by the hunters. Then they go into a special soup. The catching and eating of sea snakes is a very old tradition on the island of Kudaka, where the sea provides more than the land.
The rarest species on Earth. This insect-eating prehistoric mammal has walked planet Earth for 80 million years. In Mandarin, pangolin means the animal that can dig through the mountain. Its powerful claws have evolved to tear open termite mounds. A single pangolin can consume 70 million insects a year, helping to keep the ecosystem in balance and earning it the title Guardian of the Forest. Shy nocturnal creatures, they spend most of the day in underground burrows. They protect themselves from predators with a full body armor of razor-sharp scales, formed, like human fingernails, from keratin. But its defense has become its downfall. Pangolins are the most trafficked animal on the planet. They are poached for their scales, which are used in traditional remedies, and for their meat. Since 2000, more than 1 million have been poached from the wild across the world, driving them to the very edge of extinction. Although their scales have officially been banned from use in traditional medicine, it's going to take rigorous enforcement to save this extraordinary creature from extinction. The fact that one of its last natural refuges is here in the Uyi National Park, the center of a global tea industry, is perhaps the greatest symbol of how, when man works thoughtfully with nature, both can thrive.
The Sika deer have started creeping into the lush cultivated fields. It's a whole new world. These fields are brimming with specially sown grass, intended for cattle. But this herd always seems to be one step ahead, helping themselves to the best grass before it can even be cut. Every year, deer can munch their way through over 30 million pounds worth of crops. But some farmers have developed a live and let live attitude. The deer are reaping the benefits of Hokkaido's human landscape. In a place like this, it pays to be adaptable. In the warmth of early summer, the red-crowned cranes have moved into the farmland waterways. And they have a new family member. They traditionally nest in marshes, but most have been drained. So the cranes are raising their chick in an irrigation channel. All through the summer, the chick will be entirely dependent on its parents for food. The channel is teeming with insects, fish, and frogs. But the parents can barely keep up with their gangly offspring's appetite. The family won't be able to move on until the chick can fly. In the meantime, they can't escape from surprise visitors. The Seeker deer have managed to wander right into the path of a pair of cranes with a week-old chick. Mum and Dad work together to shepherd the chick to safety. And then a quick flash of the dagger-like beak to make sure the deer keep their distance. The parents' diligence has paid off. Their priority now is to feed their chick while times are good.
St. Andrew's Beach is one of the most crowded on the planet, and so holding a territory here is a constant battle. This bull elephant seal holds the mating rights to 60 females. For 2 months, he's guarded this stretch of beach. Unable to feed, he's losing 10 kilos a day. And he's exhausted. But other bulls are lying around, waiting their chance. Blubber, 15 centimeters thick, is protection against the cold, but not from the impact of a 4-ton opponent. He holds his ground and forces the intruder back out to sea. Life in the Antarctic is harsh indeed. But all these creatures come here because the Southern Ocean is one of the richest on Earth. In the underwater forests off northern Japan, the residents of this sunken wreck are waiting for the summer temperatures to reach 16 degrees Celsius. That, for some, is the time for mating. A kind of giant wrasse called a copodai. This is a male. And in female terms, he's particularly handsome. He's a meter long and weighs 15 kilos. Much larger than the diminutive female. And he is ready to breed. He attempts to mate with her, and with any of the other dozen or so females that live in his territory, whenever he gets the chance. But females from around 10 years old take little notice of his advances. This is because when any large female reaches a critical body size, she can begin a dramatic transformation. Over just a few months, particular enzymes inside her body cease to work. And male hormones start to circulate. As time passes, her head expands and her chin gets longer. A she has changed into a he. With this comes a change in temperament. The old male who ruled all the females here is challenged to a face-off. The more bulbous the head, the more it intimidates an opponent. The territory has a new ruler. Only the largest females transform themselves in this way. But the change enables them to have more mates, so they will have many more offspring carrying their genes. But a new male can't afford to be complacent. Inside the body of every Kobudai female, there is a new male in waiting. In the Gulf of Mexico, these eruptions also release a super salty liquid brine. It's heavier than seawater, and it accumulates in great pools on the seafloor. It's difficult to make sense of the sight. A lake of concentrated salt water, 15 meters deep, at the bottom of the sea. Around its margin, perhaps even more strangely, there is a profusion of life. Giant mussels that can live and grow for a century or more pack tightly together, dwarfing the shrimps and squat lobsters that feed around them. Cutthroat eels, scavengers, come to the shores of the Brine Lake in search of something edible. Some even venture into the brine. Spending too long in it can send an eel into toxic shock. Its only hope is to rise above it. It manages to escape. Others are not so lucky. The brine embalms their bodies, and the casualties of decades accumulate around the margins. And wave power creates towering fortresses like these cliffs in the Arctic, home to tens of thousands of breeding seabirds. The faces of the cliffs are accessible only from the air and have plenty of nooks and crannies for those that can get there. But to feed, seabirds must still master the ocean world beyond. A puffin. He's a fisherman and a father. He has a mate for life. Both share the burden of raising their week-old chick, their puffling, who needs 5 square meals a day. The parents alternate fishing trips. it's Dad's turn. When fish stocks are low, puffins must fly as much as 50 kilometers out to sea to reach the good fishing grounds. Once there, they plunge into another world. Good fishing spots are hard to come by, and they have company. Guillemots. Like the puffin, their wings are short and good for diving. Puffins can hold their breath for over a minute and dive as deep as 40 meters. A catch. But it's a long way home. After an exhausting round trip of almost 100 kilometers, this puffin's nearly made it. But there are pirates on this coast. Arctic skuas. All around, returning parents are being robbed. The skuas' long, raked-back wings make them faster and more maneuverable. Puffins must choose their moment wisely. A near miss. A last desperate burst of speed, and it's made it. safely home after a 3-hour round trip. Where his patient partner is waiting. Today, their puffling will eat. But where fish numbers are in decline, many puffins now find it hard to get enough food for their chicks. In the changing seas of today, it can be even harder to be a successful puffin parent. And now the snakes are on the alert. This is the best feeding opportunity they will get all year. On flat ground, a baby iguana can outrun a racer snake. But others are waiting in ambush. Another hatchling has its first glimpse of a dangerous world. A snake's eyes aren't very good, but they can detect movement. So if the hatchling keeps its nerve, it may just avoid detection. A near miraculous escape. the lucky survivors could begin learning the unique way of life demanded by this hostile island.